everyone. This is Jackie from the Paint Bar. Welcome to my at-home studio, where today it's Earth Day, so happy Earth Day, everybody. And today we're going to talk a little bit about making flowers with acrylic paint. All right, flowers are one of my favorite things that grows from this earth. And, being that it is April and Mother's Day is coming up, all we want to do is talk about all things flowers. So that's what we're going to dive into today. All right, so I'm just going to grab, pull this up on my computer, so if any comments come in, I can see them. We are using Streamyard today, so you just have to accept Streamyard in order for me to be able to see your name if you post on here. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So this is, I also want to note, this is a painting that we are doing on Mother's Day. So this is the Mother's Day painting that we are doing. I think it's our 1:30 class. Mother's Day this year is May 9th. This is the class that we're going to be painting virtually at 1:30. We encourage you all to sign up and join us. We also have a class in the morning and we have a class at night. So lots of things happening that day. We can get into details later. But today I want to focus on the flowers because it's Earth Day. All right. So here we go. So first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to tell you about my 3 tips. Okay. So number 1 tip that I have for you guys is your brushes, our brushes. The first tip is what brush you use. Brushes really matter when it comes to flowers. Flowers have curved lines. They are not very linear. So when we do linear things like skylines or tree trunks or branches, we always recommend using like a square brush as a nice thin edge, or the baby brush is also a really good one. But when it comes to flowers, we want to use round curved brushes. And my ultimate favorite comes in our brush pack. It's a size 6 round brush. So it looks something like this. All right. It's great because it's curved all the way around and it comes to a point at the top. So the nice thing about the curve is that it lets you kind of move your brush in a circular way. Right? If you used a square brush, here's a flatter square brush, then doing something like this might be a little bit harder. You're going to get those more like angular edges. So that's great. Some people might like that. However, my ultimate favorite brush to use is the round brush. Now, the next brush I like to use is, and I think I mentioned it was a size 6. Next one I like to use, these are all Princeton brushes. We sell these on our website. The next one is a size 2. So the size 2 is also great because it's great for doing all the little details. And also just sometimes you might want some smaller lines. So when we do, especially like the highlights at the end, I always use a smaller brush. So when you have the bigger brush strokes, I like to use a bigger brush like this round one. Right, this is perfect for making these, and I'm going to show you guys how to make these in just a second. But for all the little details, maybe something in the middle, the smaller lines, our little polka dots, when we're doing our stems, then I like to use a smaller brush, which is the size 2. Okay. All right. So that's the tip number 1. Now I wrote my tips down, so I didn't forget them. Okay. Number 2, layering paint. So when it comes to making a floral painting or floral arrangement, I don't just throw. Well, that's not true. Sometimes I do. I'll experiment with putting flowers on. But what I like to do is kind of like place my flowers where I want them to go, and then I like to layer. All right. So I like to work on the whole painting. That for those who are in our membership, you've taken classes with me, you know that I will always say that I like to work on the entire canvas, not just on one specific part. So if you were just to work on this flower, for instance, you might perfect this flower, but you're going to forget about all the other flowers. So what's really important is to kind of lay out all your flowers, right? Lay everything out, give it like a quick little outline, just so you know where everything's going to go. Then I like to add a base layer. So let's say we're doing these hydrangea over here. I might make a nice big circle. I might paint blue behind it. This one I know is going to be kind of like a yellowish white color. I might roughly put that on. This one I know is going to be kind of pink. Even if you don't know the exact color, place something down on your canvas so you can kind of, plot out where everything's going to go. Then you can, number 1, visually see the composition of the painting. And then number 2, you get a better idea like what colors you want to use. So you might start off with one color and then totally change your mind and do another color, and that's okay because you're layering, and layering builds up your paint. The other great thing about layering is it adds like highlights and shadows. So, I started with a darker blue on this hydrangea. So when in between all my flowers, you might see a little bit of that dark blue poking out. That shows that there's shadow. And then the white on there, that shows highlight. So having these different colors kind of play with each other, having the different layers will develop your painting more. It'll make it a little more interesting and a little more fun and interesting to look at. Okay, I am opening this up because I think I have comment coming in from Slack from someone on our team, and I can't see it. So if you're watching right now, post it in here. I think Alana was trying to mention something about our company and how we work to be green. And Alana, we'll get to that in a second. That's a great idea. I mean, I think as a company, we really, as part of Earth Day, we want to make sure to keep the promise to ourselves that we're trying to minimize our supplies as much as possible. Going virtual has definitely changed the game a little bit because we have to supply things for every single person. But we are reducing our plastic as much as we can. And it's just something to remember because it's Earth Day and we have a promise to this earth to take care of it. So that's my side point. Okay, let's move on. So the last tip, my last tip, and I have a gazillion tips. Maybe we need to do a part 2 for this. The last tip is imperfection. Okay, my type A's, I'm talking to you. So when you paint flowers, it's really important to realize that no 2 petals are the same. No 2 leaves are the same. So you can't focus on making everything so perfect, right? Like if you look at this really close, all my petals look really different. Now, I had the best question last night. So in our membership, we have an online membership. In the membership yesterday, a customer, one of my favorite customers, asked the most type A question I think I've ever gotten, which was, when you apply paint with a square brush, it kind of separates the paint and you can see that there are little like bumps on the side. How do you get rid of those? And I just said, that is painting, right? It's imperfect. You want to see the paint. You want to see the brush strokes. If you look at all, Van Gogh, Monet, those big impressionist painters, when they painted, you can surely bet that there were paint strokes and blobs on their canvases. Now, with the paint that we use, this is Blick acrylic paint. Those little bumps kind of flatten out a little bit. They're not as prominent as in some other paintings, but some other paints. Sorry, I lost train of thought there. Some paints are a little bit thicker and you're going to feel it more than our Blick paints. So our Blick paints do dry pretty flat, but you will sometimes still feel a little bump. That's okay. That's just part of the painting. It's supposed to be there. So keep that in mind. Imperfections are fantastic. All these little leaves come from imperfections. It's what makes it painterly. And if you're layering and you have imperfections laid upon each other, your painting is really going to develop into a much more, advanced looking painting, right? If you just have one flat painting, it's one layer, it's just a little simpler. So if you want a little bit more going on, then I encourage you to just be okay with your imperfections. Imperfections are just part of the game. It's part of life. Okay, those are my tips today. Other things I like to think about when painting flowers, using complementary colors against each other. So like when you do a background, you want it to really be opposite of what you have here. Now I know we do have a lot of reds and pinks, so I'm kind of going against my own rule. My favorite, usually when we do these, we do like a teal background with a pink flower. Teal and pink look really good next to each other. They're really complementary to each other. But we have so many of those, we thought we would just like be daring and try something different with a pink background. But I do like it. Also, there's some yellow mixed in there, so it's not just pink. We've got a lot going on. And it's kind of fun. Also, using bright colors and not being afraid of contrasting colors, right? So like I use, plain whites. I use plain reds. I let them go up against each other. We mix. So there's a combination of like mixed colors, but also just strong, bold colors. So when you're doing flowers, you got to be, they're one of my favorite things to do because they don't have to be exact and they can be free form and they kind of work with each other. Okay. All right. Hi, Shula. I want to get a ticket and paint this picture. Oh, good. Yes. So, Shula, this is my Hebrew teacher. Hi, Shula. This is painted on Sunday, May 9th at 1:30 p.m. So it starts at 2 o'clock, I think. And we do a lot of floral bouquets, so keep an eye out. We're always painting flowers. So, hey, Alan, the Amish purposely put in a mistake because no one is perfect. I don't need to. I like have this really far away. This is closer. Okay, the Amish purposely put in a mistake because no one is perfect. I don't need to purposely put in. You don't need to purposely put in imperfection, but it just naturally happens. It's just the name, how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to make a flower right now. Okay, so I'm going to move this aside for a minute. I am using a mixed media pad. So I love mixed media pads. We always encourage people to get these. They're fantastic for practicing. So, if you don't want to go ahead and do the whole painting, something like this is really great to practice on. It's not as smooth as using a canvas, but you can use it for both acrylics and watercolor paint, which is why I love it. Okay. All right, so I also sometimes use it as my palette. That's what I'm doing here today. I've gotten I have, palettes upstairs, downstairs. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to make these flowers. And I'll also show you, I'll just show you a little, I mean, it's going to kind of come together as a little bouquet here, but it's how I make flowers pretty quickly. And, whenever I do bouquets, you're most likely going to find these flowers in it, okay? So round brush here, my size 6, dipped into my water, tap it off, and wipe it on a paper towel. Honestly, I can get rid of all my other brushes when I'm painting flowers because these are just my favorite. So round 6, I can't find my smaller size 2 little baby brush is what we call it in the paint bar. It is somewhere in my house. So I'm using our other brush pack. And so we sell 2 brush packs now on our website. You can find them both. Some are, you can, go check them out. Okay, dip in the water, tap it off, wipe it off. So I am going to, let's say, make a few, I'll start, as I said, let's plot things out. Okay, so let's do a few little circles, like 1, and I'll do another one over here, 2, and I might even do another. I'm going to use my smaller brush. I'm going to do yellow, dip in water, dip in the yellow, and I'm going to make a little circle here, and I'm just going to, I'm plotting things out. So just I have a rough idea where things are going to go in my bouquet. All right, so this is just a really, really, really quick tutorial. This is not to be like a whole entire floral bouquet. All right, so I have 2 flowers there. I have a little one popping out over there. And then let's start with those, and then I'll show you what to do next, okay? So we plotted a few things out. Now, I'm going to apply the base. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my round brush using my red and a little bit of my white. So red and white, we want it to be like a dark pink. And I'm just going to fill everything in, okay? So again, back to imperfections. I'm not worried about my circles being perfect. That's a circle. All right, here's a little bit of white. And with my dark red, I'm going to do another one, having them overlap each other. You can see my brush stroke on there, and you can see that they're not perfect circles. Okay? All right, now I'm going to go to this next one here where I'm going to make this like a little daisy. So my daisy is not, I'm going to add a tiny bit of my blue. So whenever I paint things that are white, I like them to have a little bit of a bluish tint. So they're not perfectly white, and you can see them against the white backdrop. All right, so I'm going to take my smaller brush. This is a baby brush, but it's just a different looking version of the baby brush than what we usually would see in our brush pack. It's our smaller brush pack. I'm going to use a tiny bit of my blue and mostly my white. So very, very little blue, mostly my white. And I'm going to go around here. I'm going to just go right over that yellow outline that I made. And it's kind of hard to see. So let me bring it a little closer. All right, so I'm going to go like this and like this. Painting over that yellow. It's okay if you can see the yellow through a little bit. Oh, now I got a little bit of my red in there, which is fine because we're just plotting things out, so I'm not feeling like I have to totally commit to this. Okay, so I know it's kind of hard to see when you're far away. And then on the inside, using the same brush, I'm going to dip it into my yellow. I have some white on there. Whenever I use yellow, I always want to throw in a little bit of the white as well. And I'm just going to go right on the middle and kind of blob it in there. All right, now I've plotted things out. Now the last thing I'm going to do is, I'm not really looking to like make a whole bouquet here. I just wanted to show you a few simple flowers that we use in almost every single painting. So the last thing I do, I think I'll make a few little leaves just because like what's flowers without some leaves. So I'm going to take the same round brush, dip it into my green, and I'm going to just have it come down. I'm going to make a few little lines coming down for my stems. All right, notice that they're not perfectly straight. And then I'm going to add some leaves on the bottom. So whenever I make leaves, it's just 2 curved lines that come to a point. And I'm going to fill those in. Now this baby brush, I probably would move over to the round brush. I like the baby brush because it gives it a nice tip on the top, but it is kind of hard to fill in the whole space. Oh, I realized I should face it towards you guys. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to do a few more. I'll do one more like this, where I put a leaf at the end and then kind of do a few little ones on each side. Now, another thing when you're doing this is that I find that people have a really hard grip. Like when people paint flowers or paint just in general, you really hold it like this with such a firm grip. Loosen your hand. Sometimes it helps just to hold it in the middle of the brush. You can hold it by the metal, which is how you get a little bit more control, but keep the grip really light. Okay, so here are some flowers. All right, now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. We're going to layer back on top here. So I'm going to put my baby brush in my water. I'm going to grab my round brush again. And this time I'm going to use a little bit of a lighter color here. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of my red mixed into much more of my white. So I have a lot more white on there, very little red. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on, you can start either inside or outside. I'll do each one differently for each of these flowers. So on this one, I'll start on the inside, and I just make little curved lines on the inside, working their way out. Okay, now as I go outside that circle, I'm going to curve the lines right outside the circle like that. Okay, and then it's not a perfect circle anymore. But is it perfect? Absolutely not. It is imperfect, right? It is not symmetrical. It's not like every curve is the same size. So that's really important to remember, because I know the majority of the people watching this have this need to make everything perfect. And when you're painting flowers, you gotta let that go. All right, so now I'm gonna get more white on my brush. I want this one to even be lighter. So this time I'm gonna start on the outside and work my way in. So starting the outside, going like this and like this. I'm going on the outside first. And now I'm just going to work my way in. So I'm going to go in, 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 making curved little lines. All right, now what's cool about each of these is you can see the different layers. So because we layered, we have an area on the bottom that's a little bit darker. The top is a little bit lighter. And you can keep going into it. So I can go back, and I can go back into a little bit of red now. I can go back in, and I can kind of give it a few more little wobbles. So I just keep adding these curved lines. And if you don't like it the first shot, just keep going back in and adding more. You really can't, you know, if you mess up, just do it again and do it over and over and over. Now I'm using my bigger brush. However, if you wanted to add a different line, like a variation in the line, take the baby brush, clean it off. So that's size 2. You can dip it into your red again, or you can even dip into some yellow if you want to vary the color a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit of an orangey color. So I'm going to dip a teeny bit into my red, my yellow, and some white. All right, and then I'm going to go back in. Here we go. Go back in, and in, and in, and like that. You can see some more variation in the color because we were layering color on top of each other. Okay. All right. So that is it for my flowers. You can keep going on and on and on with this. I can keep showing you more and more and more. The more you build it up, the more interesting the painting is going to be, the more developed the painting is going to be. So I really encourage you guys to just keep adding more on there. Okay. All right. Now, when it comes to my lighter flowers, you can go back in with a dark. So if you want that white to really show up, I love using blue. This is another tip I do. I love using blue in with my white flowers. So you still get the idea that they're white, but you can adding a little bit of the blue helps it stand out against the rest, okay? The other thing is, in a lot of our paintings that you'll see in the paint bar, you'll see like the highlights are white and then the shadows are using black. I don't usually use black when it comes to painting flowers. So I usually use blue. So what I do is this, and here we go. I just find the blue is a little bit softer. Like that. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to use a little bit of blue also in my leaves here. Here's a little bit of blue here and here and down here. All right. So just a little bit of blue goes a long way. You also could add a little bit of blue into your flower as well. So some of them I do add a little bit, and sometimes you can add blue with a little bit of red, so it has like a purplish tint, and that's another way. So we use the same base color here, but we're just layering more colors on top. We're using different brush sizes, and doing that, it's going to instantly make our brushes, our flowers have very different colors, like really make them defined and different from each other. Okay. All right. There we go. We also could go back into our like daisy on top here. Add a little bit more white. Add a little bit of speckles in there. All right. You guys get the point. You can add and add and add for days. but it's all about layering. It's about using the right brushes to help you have success. And then also just like not being so hard on yourself. Look, I'm holding my brush very loosely. So if I wanted to do real detail, I'd hold it by the metal with a tight grip, but I'm holding it much looser on the outer edges here. And here, I'll throw a little line in the middle. Okay, I think that's it for today. All right, so these are just a little mock-up of flowers. If you guys have questions about flowers, please post them in the comments. I always like to hear them. We're always looking to help you guys with your flowers. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on flowers, then join us on Mother's Day. Mother's Day, May 9th, 2021, depending on when you watch us. And, you know, we'd love to see you there. We have a few paintings going on. What do we have? I think I brought them in. Here's another one. So one of them is a double of two. We have a doubles painting for mothers and children. It doesn't even do mothers, people together. Doesn't matter how you're related. That's in the morning at 11 a.m. We have this is a peacock with some flowers. We do a lot of flowers in the next few months. So this is not Mother's Day. I think it's the following weekend. And then this one, Monet inspired Weeping Willow Bridge. This one is Mother's Day as well, maybe at 6:30. I should get all my times right. But go onto our website, check it out. We'd love to see you there. And happy Earth Day to everybody. Great to see you all. And we hope to see you all again soon. All right. Bye, guys.